Censorship. Censorship influenced every aspect of daily life under the Nazis. They controlled what was heard, read, watched. Nothing was allowed to contradict the message of the greatness of Hitler and the greatness of the Nazi state. In 1934, Joseph Goebbels brought German radio under state control. Everything was vetted, in other words, looked at by him before it was broadcast. He also organised for 6,000 loudspeakers to be set up in public places around the country so everyone could hear government announcements and messages when required. Cheap radios were manufactured by the government so that most, if not all, families could afford to buy one. Therefore, if they've got one in their home, they are listening to the message from the state. Foreign stations were difficult to tune in, so pretty much all that people could listen to were German stations with the German message on. The only source of any news allowed was the state-controlled press agency. Every morning, detailed instructions were given about how the news was to be presented. You couldn't deviate from that policy. You had to stick to very strict guidelines. The only newspapers were Nazi-run newspapers. In the cinema too, there was a mixture of entertainment and politics. The escapist romances or adventures were most popular, a little bit like The Triumph of the Will by Leni Riefenstahl, we talked about in another presentation. Hitler loved these too because it glorified the Nazi Party and showed people how excellent the Nazi regime was. Literature and books were obviously a key part of education, but any books that were not approved by the Nazis because they were written by a communist like Karl Marx, or they had a Jew doing particularly as a hero or doing really well, were got rid of, and in many cases, as you can see from this picture, were burnt. Huge bonfires were organised by Hitler Youth and young Nazis, where in some cases, and in this one in Berlin, 20,000 books were destroyed. Eventually, by the end of the war, the works of over 2,500 people were officially banned.